me to change, they want me to change, but I ain't changing. Nah, I remain the same.
And you are now tuned in to another episode of Intellectually Petty Radio, brought to you by M3S3 Clothing. Men make moves and suckers stand still. And as always, on the mighty Nerd DJ Radio Network. And while I'm at it, man, shout out to Headlights Hip Hop and Mikey Eckstein. I see what y'all doing over there. But y'all already know, man, week after week, day after day, month after month, year after year, I only fuck with legends over this way. And today is absolutely no exception. We got, hold on. Former WBO junior middleweight world champion, Monroe's finest. And while I'm on that, y'all need to put this man in y'all Hall of Fame, Monroe, Michigan. Y'all bullshitting. We got Bronco Mckart in the building. How you doing, King?
My man, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for that intro. I like that. I appreciate that.
Oh, come on, man. I'll be working on it.
My man, yeah, hey, it was a good job. You did a great job on that.
Yo, how's life? How's your family?
Man, everything's fantastic. I have no complaints. Life is good. You know, I tell everybody every day I wake up, first thing I do is I get to my bedside, thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for waking me up in the morning, give me another day to be better and try to do better, and just thank him for.
I thought it froze on me. Quick question.
Yeah.
Was it the first time, or have you ever been beaten up?
When you say beaten up, could you elaborate on that?
You go home, you like, that dude kicked my ass.
So yeah. Later in my career, I would say Kelly Pavlik. When I went home, I was like, yeah, you got me. But not too often where I went home and felt like, oh man, that guy just got over on me. But Kelly Pavlik was, you know, I was deeper in my career. He was a young gun coming up, monster middleweight, great punching power, great leverage, great length. You know, and he went on to, you know, be the undisputed middleweight champion and had like about a 90-something% knockout ratio. But you know what? More importantly than all of that, he's a great guy. Kept in touch with Kelly. We have a friendship, talk periodically through Facebook, on the phone here and there, and you know, great guy. So in my career, I lost really only to the best of the best, and not only best of the best inside of the ring, but outside of the ring as well. All good people.
See, I'm too petty to box because I can't see losing and not being mad at you forever.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, initially the hurt and the pain for a few days, sometimes a few weeks, maybe even a few months. But overall, we're all in this for, you know, the same reason. We want to be number one. Of course, we want to be world champion. We want to be able to take care of our families, and if we have children, we want to be able to take care of our children, and we want to secure our legacy. So, you know, at the end of the day, we're all warriors of a different type, and we go out there and we do our best. And at the end of the day, we're friends.
Has there ever been a point where you beat somebody so bad you felt bad for them?
Not necessarily in a fight, but there has been times in sparring where I went home more than one time and literally shed tears and said, I'm not boxing that guy again. I'll never do that to him again. It bothered me that bad. So yeah, that has happened more than once.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Should every fighter have that?
I don't necessarily know if it's good or bad. You know, some see, when you're a fighter, you try to really have no conscience, quite honestly, when you're in there, because this is a hurt sport. You know, we always used to joke and say, this isn't tennis, there is no love, you know, and so it's not good or bad. It's just how you handle it, I guess. It can turn out good or bad. For me personally, if I got over on a guy really good in the gym, I just didn't want to do it again.
So when did you start boxing?
So I started boxing at amateur at the age of 14 years old, and I fell in love with it. It was something that just, I enjoyed it. The one-on-one competition. It wasn't like I had to compete on a team of 5 or a team of 10 or whatever. It was me and it was you. The best man wins. And I loved it from the first time I put on a pair of gloves.
So who was it that said go to the gym?
It was my dad, actually. So kind of a great backstory. I was running around with a group of guys, and we were all heading down the wrong path in life, quite honestly. You know, these guys were robbing, stealing, drugs, that whole scene. And my dad just sat me down one day when I got home from school, and he said, "Listen, I know the road you're going down, and I'm not gonna let it happen." He said, "Every day when you get home from school, you're gonna spend time with me doing something. I don't care what it is." He said, "We can play basketball, we can bowl, we can play baseball, we can fish. I don't care what it is, but it's gonna be with me. I'm going to step in right now, son, and save your life and change the direction of your life." He was an amateur boxing coach at the time, so I said, "Well, I'll try boxing," because I respected my dad, but I feared him too. My dad was a no nonsense guy,
Mm-hmm.
and so I went to the gym, started training me, and I fell in love with it. I just fell in love with boxing, and literally, it's cliche. You've heard the story a million times, but it changed my life and saved my life and put me in the right direction in life.
At what point did you mentally thank him?
It wasn't until I got probably in my 20s. I literally told my dad, "Thank you. Thank you, Dad, for stepping in and making that decision and putting me in the right path of life." And it worked out for him, worked out for me as well. Me and my dad just built an unbreakable bond. My dad is my best friend to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Love that guy to death. Would do anything for him as he would do anything for me. When I tell people about my dad, here's what I say. If I went to the hospital tonight and called my dad and said, "Hey, Dad, listen, I need both your kidneys to survive," he would say, "What time?" He wouldn't ask any more questions. "What time do I need to show up?" And that's the kind of relationship I've always had and always will have with my dad.
Mm. Well, salute to that man.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't even know what to say after that one.
yeah, yeah. I love my
And hopefully he hears this.
Yeah, I'll show it to him. I'll show
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So okay, 14, you start boxing. At what point do you realize I got a shot at greatness?
It probably wasn't until, as far as the amateurs go, until I was like 19 or 20 years old, it clicked one day. I can actually fight. There was a lot of people who would be at the fights in the Golden Gloves. I came up through Toledo Golden Gloves,
Okay.
and they would see me boxing, and they would say, "Man, you got it. You have that it factor. You have something special." My dad would tell me that. People in the audience would tell me that, but I didn't see it. I didn't feel it. I didn't know it. And then around the age of 20, 1920, it kind of clicked one day. I'm like, "Man, I can fight." And then once I started believing in myself, and I've shared this with a lot of people, both youth and adults, and I said, "Listen,
Mm-hmm.
there's 100 people in the room, and 99 of them believe in you, and you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to succeed. And if 99 of them don't believe in you, but you believe in yourself, you can succeed." And I'm that guy, because there were people that believed in me before I did. But once it clicked, once my dad, and there was a guy, Keith Vining, who was one of my amateur boxing coaches, who fought through the Chronic Gym. My dad was actually his amateur coach, and
Mm-hmm.
Keith's dad was actually one of my amateur coaches. So the whole circle was kind of, intertwined. And my dad would train me physically, and Keith would sit me down at the end of every workout and spend 1 hour just talking to me to mentally prepare me to start believing in myself. And then once I started believing in myself, it was hard for me to get beat.
Okay, what's it like winning the championship?
Hmm. It's the greatest feeling in the world. Whenever you set out to accomplish a goal in life and you accomplish it, it's a fantastic feeling. But for me, it was extra special because I made a promise to my grandpa on his deathbed
Mm-hmm.
that, I would win the world title for him, that I would bring it to him. And he died about a year before I won the world championship. But first thing we did when we got back from California from winning that world championship is went to his graveside, laid the belt on his tombstone. Me and my two uncles, God rest both their souls, they have since passed. But we went out there and we shared a bunch of stories and just a bunch of laughs, just about life and stories about my grandpa. And I ended up writing a poem called "Promise Kept"
Okay.
for my grandpa. And I just recently wrote it actually, but and it talked about how I ended the poem with, "As I wrote this poem, I deeply wept, but I also smiled at a promise kept." So it was special. It was more than normal for me. It was more than just winning a world title. It was
Yeah.
winning a world title and doing it out of love, just not out of just work physically and training. I had 7 shirts made up during training camp, and it was a picture of me and my grandpa, and it had the number 4 and a dash and the letter U, 4U. And it was me on his lap with my arm around him, with him laughing because he was a big jolly guy. And I wore those shirts every day, 4U. And when we got ready to fight for the world title, we bought a ringside seat. He always wore a floppy hat. Put his floppy hat in there. Put a picture of him. Paid for the seat. I had that seat just for him. And when I won the world championship, took his picture, kissed it, held it up to the sky. And said we did it.
Yo, that's so dope.
Yeah. Yeah.
You win the world championship. You go home.
Mm-hmm.
What's the thought process for the next fight after that?
I felt I was the best in the world, and I said, "So give me let's fight. Let's fight. Who's next? We don't have to go through the top 10. We don't have to go to 15. Just let's go with number 1." And of course, number 1 was Winky Wright. And the very first time we fought, I lost a very close split decision. Hometown, being that I lost in my hometown, it was kind of controversial, all that kind of stuff, whatever. Bottom line, at the end of the day, he got the win. Very, very disturbing, very heartbreaking, very crushing. But to lose to a guy who went on to achieve such great things, Hall of Fame induction, undisputed junior middleweight champion, beat some great fighters along the way, beat Sugar Shane Mosley twice, beat Felix Trinidad. Winky went on to do great things. Developed a good friendship, stay in touch with Winky. Flew down after I retired from boxing, flew down, played some golf with him. So he's a great human being. Like I said, I didn't lose to just anybody. I lost to world champion, world-class people. I can live with that. It's not easy, but I can accept it.
Y'all fought 3 times, though, right?
Yeah, 3 times. Yeah, 3 times.
That don't happen too often.
No. What was happening was, both southpaws, both tough guys, good fighters. We kept working our way to the top, and he was either champion and number 1, or I was champion number 1, or he was 1 and I was 2, whatever. And it always boiled down to him. And I tell people all the time, I said, man, if that guy would have been like 5 years ahead or 5 years behind, I'm going down as one of the best junior middleweights ever, in my opinion, because there was really nobody at that time I felt could have beat me. And when you believe it and you have the skills to back it, it's hard to be beat.
Is there such thing as a perfect fighter? If so, who?
Well, I think one of the people that would be considered one of the most perfect fighters, probably Sugar Ray Robinson. And even though he was one of the perfect fighters, he still had losses on his record. James Toney, I'm telling you right now, James Toney doesn't get the credit that guy sometimes deserves. That guy was I say this, an in shape, focused, dedicated James Toney. I don't think anybody could have beat that guy. He was special and had a chin of steel, great defense, could fight in the pocket, could do it all. Of course, the great Muhammad Ali, it's hard to go against him, but all these guys still had losses. Floyd Mayweather's name's going to come up, I'm sure. And great fighter. Is he the greatest of all time? By no means, because here's what I say about him. As great as he was, let's take Tommy Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Wilfred Benitez, Marvin Hagler. They all fought everybody. They all round robined each other. They all fought each other. Some of them twice. You're telling me if you threw Floyd in the middle as the 6th guy, he's coming out undefeated?
No. He might not even win.
Right. He probably lose 2 or 3 of them possibly.
Oh, I know. I don't think that's a probably. I think that's a definite. He's gonna lose. Definitely, in my opinion, Tommy Hearns, definitely that's the L. Marvin Hagler, absolutely an L.
Yeah.
The closest he'd get was Sugar Ray, and Sugar Ray was deceptively strong.
Oh, see, a lot of people don't really realize, if you really study and watch Sugar Ray Leonard fights, Sugar Ray Leonard was vicious. He just doesn't get, because he was so smiling and had that pretty face, and he was always so camera friendly. But man, if you really watch his fights in the ring, that guy was vicious. I think the closest he gets is to Wilfred Benitez.
Yeah, I would give you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, uh, do you think, looking back on your career, that being more, I don't know, I don't want to say photogenic because that's not the right word, but media savvy would have helped?
Yeah, I mean, you know, anything you do in life, you can reflect back and think, I wish I maybe could have done this, wish I could have done that. But you know, I was never like a trash talk kind of guy or a hype guy. I just showed up. I considered myself like a blue collar champion. I showed up. I did my work. I did my job. I got my victories, and I went home. And you know, looking back, maybe I would have played to the cameras a little more. Maybe because back then when I was fighting, I kept my head shaved. You know, kind of like goatee, and tried to be mean. You know, I might have tried to be more pretty, more hair. Better
It
look, you know.
seems to work. Like,
Yeah.
as far monetarily,
Well, look at Ryan Garcia, pretty. Oscar De La Hoya, pretty. You know, these guys are pretty, and it kind of it seems to be that's the way they're going. And you know, maybe, but yeah, you know, it is what it is, and I'm happy with what I did with what I had.
most important loss you had?
Well, I think the very first loss to Winky Wright was an absolute career direction changer. I beat him. I mowed down 2 through 10 like nothing, in my opinion. Then I feel like I could have, you know, became undisputed, you know, at that point too. But he just was the guy that was in my way, and the first loss to him was the worst loss. I felt it, like I said, I felt I did enough to win the fight. If one judge scores one round either way, it's a draw. I still leave with my belt, and I could go past him and not have to look back. But you know, it turned out the way it did, and I believe God has a plan for every reason. Still don't know the reason for that one, but hopefully someday I find out.
So, and I brought up the Hall of Fame in Monroe.
Yeah.
Why aren't you in it? I don't get that. Like, I drive past Monroe a gazillion. I've driven past there a gazillion times. A friend of mine, my best friend, stays in Monroe. It is not the biggest town. There's not too many. Like, why? What the fuck are they doing?
You know, it's I don't know. It's kind of funny because me and my friends sit around and talk about it sometime. You know, and I mean, the city itself, the people, they treat me. I love it here. They treat me like gold. I have no complaints, none whatsoever. They have a wall of fame in our local city hall. I'm not on it. They have a Monroe High School wall of fame. I guess I didn't play high school sports, so I'm not on that. They do have me in the museum. All due respect, they do have a nice little display of me in the museum locally. But it's kind of funny. It's an ongoing joke in my family. You know, like, you know, yeah, Bronco, you were world champion. You were ranked top 10 in the world for 10 years straight. Fought for numerous world titles. Blah 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 blah. But can't make your high school Hall of Fame. And we laugh, but you know, it is what it is. I don't know the purpose behind it, but whatever.
What happened to boxing? Why is it not the sport that it was back in the day?
Well, I think one of the main things is back in the day, the best fought the best, and they fought them in their prime. You know, when you look at the Tommy Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard fight, I think by the time they fought their second fight, they was both still in their 20s, very close to it.
Mm-hmm.
They were fighting each other. You know, Tommy Hearns was the I think WBA, Leonard was WBC, or vice versa, whatever. The best fought the best. They weren't afraid to lose. They didn't feel like they had to keep a zero to be considered the best, because if you're beating, you know, a whole bunch of people that really aren't on that level, so what? But when you're fighting the best and losing to the best, and then aren't afraid to rematch them, I think that's one of the biggest differences. And MMA is a classic example of that. Those guys have 6, 7, 8, 9 losses, but on top level fights against top level competition.
Yeah,
people still love them. When you look at like, you know, at one time when you were the heavyweight champion of the world, you were the absolute most recognized athlete on the planet.
and it wasn't close.
Not just in boxing, but on the planet.
Yeah.
Everybody knew who Muhammad Ali was. Everybody knew who George Foreman was. Everybody knew who Mike Tyson was. Mike Tyson was kind of like the last of that
Yeah.
generation where everybody knew who he was. And so MMA has what they've done a good job on is promoting their product. And when I say that, is what I mean is this. Like, let's take Randy Couture, for example. Older MMA guy. He was in his 40s coming to the ring one time. I remember them on his entrance. They were like, Randy Couture, one of the greatest MMA fighters to ever do it. Captain America. He did this. He did that. He did this. No, they built him up all the way to the ring. Now, if you take Randy Couture and make him Mike Tyson at 40, it would be, oh, this guy's washed up. Oh, this guy's over the hill. Oh, this guy should be pushing the bucket. So they kill their own product. See, if I'm trying to sell Pepsi, I'm not going to say Pepsi's flat. There's no bubbles in it. It's, you know what I mean? So boxing, sometimes the dang commentators kill their own product. And Larry Merchant was one of the worst for doing that. Used to bug me. But I think those, when you put all those things into a factor, and boxing did realize at one time, though, they had to start putting free fights on TV every week, like in the ESPN and the PBC and the NBC and all that, to be able to compete with MMA, because MMA was on TV almost every night.
And that's the fact that I think it may be a realistic time for them to consider that MMA is only really the UFC. They've got other MMAs, don't get me wrong, but
Right,
to the public at large, it's UFC.
Yes, correct.
Boxing has always had way too many different governing entities. Do you foresee a MMA, a UFC style boxing at some point in the future? From an organizational standpoint.
In boxing, kind of like UFC, where you have one person kind of runs the whole show.
Yeah,
I doubt it. I think it's too far gone maybe to do that. I think it's the way it is, and nobody can really take over boxing, because there's different promoters that have all these different fighters signed, and they don't want to cross over and fight another promotional guy, because if they lose, they don't have any ties to the other guy that won.
Yeah.
And your guy's kind of out there swimming alone. So in UFC, they control everybody. So no matter who wins, you're still promoting the next bout. You're still promoting the next guy. So it did help boxing in a sense of, by having different belts and different people, one person couldn't control the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But I think all they need to do is just work together. Like who was it? Eddie Hearn and the other guy from over there that have been putting their fighters against each other constantly, month after month after month. All these big fights that are taking place over in like Europe. I can't remember the other guy's name. Eddie Hearn and the other big guy over there. I can't think of his name. I'm sorry, but you know what I'm talking about? Kind of reddish, blonde-haired, older guy. Him and Hearn have been putting their fighters against each other, mm-hmm. and at least they're risking it. They're risking it, and they're putting the good fights on. That's the fights you see with like Anthony Joshua, and then Deontay Wilder against that Zhang, and all these different guys that are fighting each other. Even though they're getting beat, they're putting on exciting fights for the fans, and that's keeping interest.
How did you replace the adrenaline rush?
You can't. There's no rush in the world bigger than when you walk out into an arena and there's anywhere from 10,000 to 20,000 people just screaming and roaring, and the music and the lights and the hype and the ring announcer, making his way to the ring now. And people, you can't. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. You can't. Like literally, I am goosebumped up. You cannot replace that adrenaline. What you have to do is learn how to just reel it in and find some kind of new outlet. But you'll never replace that. I mean, my very first year when I officially retired from boxing, I was lost. I was depressed. I was just all over the place. And it took me a while to realize, hey, man, Here's what I explain. Here's what I compare it to.
Okay.
When you're boxing, you're like a lion in a cage, man. They open that gate and you come out and you're ripping and roaring and you're tearing everything up in your path and you're ready to go, right? Then all of a sudden, one day you got to go from being that lion to purring and being a kitty cat. That's a tough transition, you know? And you have to find some piece or something that helps you through that.
What was it about training that you loved and you hated?
I didn't hate anything about it. I loved everything about it. The worst part of training for me was I didn't like the shadow box, but I loved everything else. I just loved to train, and I felt so good when I was training. I felt good mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. I loved to train. I was the kind of guy that the trainers would have to say, "Hey, you're going to have to cut it short today, man. Call it a day. You're putting in too much time today, or you're looking too sharp too early." I was the guy that was asked to leave the gym because I was there, training too much. There was nothing about it that I hated. Nothing.
What's it like to knock somebody out?
Oh man, it kind of sounds sadistic, but it is an absolute great feeling to know that you have trained, prepared yourself, and you can hit somebody with one shot and they are gone. And you're thinking, man, I have that kind of strength and power. And yet you walk around every day just being as humble and as kind as you can to people because you know you can do that outside the ring as well as inside the ring, correct? But for me, a knockout would be compared to a grand slam home run in baseball or a 300-yard drive in golf or, a 70-yard touchdown pass. It's a great feeling. It's an adrenaline rush. It's a feeling of power. It's a feeling of accomplishment. And at the same time, it's a feeling of humbleness because you're like, I can do that, which also means it could possibly be done to me.
Last time somebody challenged you publicly.
It was this year actually, but it wasn't like that. What it was is there was a guy walking into a restaurant, and I was staring at him because I thought he was this former football player named Sean Jordan from Monroe who played for Dallas Cowboys at one time.
Okay.
And I thought it was Sean, and I knew Sean worked out all the time. And I'm thinking, man, this guy looks fantastic. And he walked in, and I realized when he walked through the door, it wasn't Sean. And he looked at me, he said something about me staring at him. Got offended because I was staring at him. And I reached over and grabbed his muscle because the guy was solid. And I said, no, big fella. I said, I'm just trying to pay you props. I said, I thought you were this professional athlete that I knew. And I can tell you work out. And he slapped my hand down. He said, don't touch me.
Oh.
I looked out the window and I was like, told myself, gather yourself, Brian. And I did. And I said, yeah, fair enough, man. Fair enough. Shouldn't have touched you. And I just sat there and held it in. And all the people in the restaurant after he left were like, bro. You wanted to snap. I go, nah. Maybe I shouldn't have touched him. I was just trying to be respectful, and he took it as disrespect. But, again, there comes a point in your life when
Yo, wait a minute, hold on. You gonna tell me there was no part of you was like, fuck this motherfucker up?
Oh, there was like 99.9% part of me was. But the 0.1 of logic came into play and said, it's not worth it. Don't do it. You know what I mean? Don't do it. There's no point because for what reason? I mean, at the end of the day, it's probably going to cost me money, possibly cost me time. It just was like, it's good. I said, let it go. And I let it go. But it took me a few days, but I let it go.
I've always heard that boxers have to register their hands. Is that true?
Mm-mm. Not like people think. Like you don't go to the police station and register your hands, nothing like that. What it is you just get a license with the state that you're a professional fighter in. And you're on the books. So if, you do get in a fist fight somewhere or something did happen, one of the things you'd have to do is show them your actual, now it's a federal ID card, but basically say, here, I'm a professional fighter, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, regardless, you're going to be, if you're not in trouble as far as jail and everything, you're going to pay some financial costs. There's no way around it. Unless you're cornered, have no way out, and you just absolutely 100% are defending yourself.
Yeah. And this is a question I ask everybody. Okay, so you're sitting on a park bench, and God sits down next to you and says that you can ask him or her one question. What would it be?
Mm, man, that's gonna. I would ask God, you looking down on me, why did you love me enough to die for me?
Mm,
Yeah, that's what I'd ask him. Yeah, yeah,
that's an interesting one.
yeah,
That's an answer I'd want to know.
yeah, 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 yeah. I'm hoping someday I get to ask that.
And you know, I go through this with people all the time. Well, you're not supposed to question God, and I say, why not?
I think, I think, I think you can, right? I think you can. Um, you may not get the answer now,
Exactly.
you know, but I think you can. I don't think he. I don't. I think God wants to be approachable. I think he wants to. I think he wants to answer questions for us for sure.
I mean, if you actually read the book, there's been numerous times where somebody's like, well,
Oh yeah.
questioning God.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely believe that. You know, I think you question in humility and in faith, and I think he's more than willing to answer.
Have you always been a man of faith?
Probably since I was about 12. Yeah. Probably since
Was
I was
it
about.
something that was it something that did it for you?
I grew up in a home with a dad that was very Bible based, very sound in his Christian beliefs. Wasn't perfect by no means. Never walked on water, and I always use that line myself. I don't walk on water, but I understand I serve a God who's faithful and forgiving, and I know that I make a lot of mistakes, and I go to Him daily. And so, yeah, I grew up in a home where it wasn't just talked; it was lived.
You know, it's interesting. I had an interview at 5 today,
Yeah,
and we were talking about as you mature, how your prayers change and your conversations with God change. They become more like you know, I would be more like back in, you know, even recently, I would have the same prayer every night. Now, sometimes I have conversations,
yeah, yeah,
and I feel like my relationship with God is getting stronger
yeah.
as a result of that.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, I think God wants you to talk to Him like we're talking. I think He wants to have a conversation, wants to know your heart, wants to know the genuine you know, what you really are about. And I think as you mature in your prayer and in your life, you a lot of your prayers are not even about you anymore. It's about everybody around you.
Yeah, especially as men, because our job is to protect.
Yep, yep.
And I don't think you can do any bigger protection than spiritually.
I'm telling you.
Yo, what's next for you?
You know, so I've got a few things in the works. So I'm on the boxing commission for the state of Michigan. So I've been on the boxing commission. Well, it's called the unarmed combat. We do boxing, MMA,
Mhm.
Muay Thai. We also they're um, considering some other combat sports in Michigan. And so I sit on the board. Been on there since 2014. Love that. It's a great experience for me. You know, I've been doing real estate for about 6 years. I have my hands in other things. I have a couple projects that I'm working on. Like I said, I love to write poetry. I've been copying and printing my poems, and I'm going to try to work on a book here soon, just to put things together. And I think it would be kind of interesting, just because of my what I always call my previous life, and then to cross over and get these poems on the books. I think it would be good. And I write from the heart. You know, I sometimes I'll be driving and a poem will hit me. I'll pull over and I'll write it, or I'll voice it. I'll voice text it right in my phone, and like I said, I shared one about my dad the other night at this event that I was at, and it was called "What Is a Hero," and I wrote that about my dad. And the first time you ever heard it, and he got emotional, I was crying, and that meant something to me.
What is a hero?
You know, so I remember being in high school, and one time we had to write I don't know what you would call synopsis on your hero. Who is your hero? So they, you know, these guys are all writing about like Magic Johnson and all the athletes of that era. I wrote mine about my dad, and I remember the teacher saying, "Your dad?" I said, "Yeah, yeah." I said, "Listen, if I need something, I can't call Magic Johnson. You know, if I need somebody to walk me through something in life, I can't get a hold of Michael Jordan. My dad will be there though. A hero to me is someone that will be there in your time of need. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned from a dear friend of mine, a guy named Joe Fanola, I remember him telling me this one time. He said, everybody's your friend, but a real friend is there in times when it's inconvenient. He said, you call me, Bronco, at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. I don't care if you're 8 hours away. I'm coming to get you because that's what friends do. And I never forgot that. I always hung on to that because I have a lot of people in my life that I'm acquainted with, but I have a select few people that are my friends that I know will be there anytime. And a hero to me is a person who is selfless. Like for my children, listen, I'll give my life, and if necessary, take one too, because you are my life. And I think a hero is like what we talked about earlier. We're talking about God. I'm talking about my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Laid his life down for me, not for the guarantee that I'm going to believe in him, but just for the opportunity. Man, that's where it's at.
Yo, that's deep, bro.
Yeah, you know.
Oh, what's Monroe like for us outsiders?
Man, listen, I love Monroe. I joke around and say Monroe is the modern day Mayberry. You know, you got everybody. Everybody pretty much knows everybody. It's a friendly town. It's a good city. It's bigger than people really think. But like the city of Monroe is like maybe I don't know at this point 30-something thousand people. But the county of Monroe is like about 150,000. My numbers might be off, but somewhere in there. And it's a good place. For me personally, especially every store I go into, every business I go into, I pretty much know all the owners, get to know them. We have a good friendly relationship. I eat at a lot of the same restaurants, a lot, and I go in the same circles, and they treat me well. And me going to their places is my way of saying thank you. It's a good city. I love it. It's still, it has its things like every other city, but it's still very safe.
Yeah, yeah. I've never heard anything like like super rough about Monroe in that way, where like these people are still asleep, but they doors unlocked.
Some do, I don't, but yeah.
I didn't say they were the wisest people.
Yeah,
But
that's just me. I don't.
well, do you still dream?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 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 I still have dreams. I still have goals. And there's still things that I am working on. And listen, once you stop dreaming, once you stop setting goals for yourself, it's over, right? For me, I can't sit still. I tell people this all the time. I have people say to me, man, you look like you keep yourself in pretty good shape. I said, I do. I keep myself in shape. I said, it's kind of like this. You buy a brand new car and you have a 1970 whatever Pontiac GTO, and you have the Pontiac GTO. You change the oil, you rotate the tires, you take it on the road 4 or 5 times a year. You lube it up, you do everything you're supposed to do. You buy a brand new car, park in your garage for 2 or 3 years, and never move it. Tires will rot, the belts will seize, it'll just quit working. That's like your body. That's like you. You can't sit still. If you sit still, you'll just freeze and seize. I'm always moving, and I enjoy it. I get to go to a lot of functions. Jackie Callan, my former manager, who got put in the Hall of Fame in June this year, she keeps me busy with a lot of events that she has going on, invites me as a guest, and I enjoy doing that kind of stuff. I do a lot of things locally, a lot of charity works, stuff that I love, and it keeps me busy, and I enjoy it.
Now, for full disclosure, I had you on before, and my dumb ass neglected to record it. So, but you had Jackie come on.
Yeah, and we were at the Hall of Fame.
I know. And
I said, what better way to bring her in? I just talked about the Hall of Fame. I brought her in. She sat down. We did about 15 minutes together, and then it didn't get recorded. I was like,
yeah, man, I felt horrible because that was like I wouldn't the opportunity to have you both on the show will never happen again. However, I do want I want to give you a little time to explain to people that may not know who she is, why she's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yep. So
why she did get inducted.
Yeah, Jackie Callan. She got inducted to the Hall of Fame June of this year. The International Boxing Hall of Fame, which is she is the actual first female manager to ever be inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. So she's in there with some great company. So Jackie managed James Lights Out Tony, one of the greatest to ever do it. Her very first fighter was a gentleman out of Chicago, dear friend of mine, Bobby Hitz. And Hitz got to fight Foreman in his career. You know, he didn't get to that championship level, but that was the first guy she ever worked with. She was a publicist for the Kronk Gym, did a lot of work for Tommy Hearns and Emmanuel Stewart. So Jackie's been around. They made a movie about her called Against the Ropes. Meg Ryan played Jackie in the movie. She's a fantastic human being. I love Jackie. Listen, I always say this. Every time I do an interview like this, sign an autograph, take a picture, it always goes back to Jackie Callan because she took a chance on me. She signed me. I wasn't like highly recruited coming out of the amateurs, wasn't highly touted, none of that kind of stuff. She saw something in me. James Toney said, sign this guy. She signed me and got me to a world championship. You know, the rest is history. So every blessing that I received during that and prior to that, during that, and after that, is all because Jackie Callan took a chance on me and James Toney as well. So I love Jackie. I just told her today, I love you, Jackie. Love Jackie.
Yo, that was crazy because I seen that he liked the flyer, and I'm like, man, I'm thinking to myself, like, fucking James Toney.
Yeah.
It's pretty dope.
That guy treats me like a brother, man. We stay in touch. Love that guy.
So how entrenched are you in the boxing community nationwide?
I'm my thumb's on the pulse. I'm on the phone every day, somewhere talking to somebody about something going on in boxing. Of course, like I said earlier, I'm in the on the boxing commission for the state of Michigan. Last night I'm laying on the couch about 11 o'clock, get a call from Bones Adams. Remember him, Clarence Bones Adams? He was a lightweight champion at one time. He called me, said, man, it's Thursday morning, 8 o'clock. I'm over in Dubai. What time is it for you? I said, man, it's 11 o'clock Wednesday night, bro. I'm laying on the couch having sleep. You know, we laughed for a second. But so yeah, I'm on the phone all the time, you know, with stuff going on and a lot going on behind the scenes with this Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fight. So my hands are in the game all the time.
What do you think about that fight? Is it good for boxing?
Well, a lot of attention is being drawn to it, so that doesn't hurt, right? The old saying in boxing used to be, any publicity is good publicity. So there's been a lot of publicity on this fight, a lot of people talking about it, and my phone's been blowing up off the hook about this fight through text messages, phone calls, Facebook messages. You know, what are your thoughts? What do you think? You know, so yeah, I think it's, you know, it is what it is. It's going to bring a lot of attention. That's really the best part about it.
Might have been the most political answer I've heard in a minute.
You like that? I rehearsed that. Didn't think you was going to ask me.
Although I understand, I get it. You know, just me personally, it's tough seeing Mike Tyson like this.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't think that Jake Paul has done enough in his life and career to be in the ring with Mike Tyson.
Oh, I mean, yeah, for sure. On the surface, for sure. My whole thing is, like I said, it is bringing a lot of attention. Jake Paul himself has brought a lot of attention to the sport of boxing. Good, bad, or indifferent, it's still keeping people.
Yeah,
it's keeping the crowd. It's the normal boxing people are following it, but it's bringing a whole new crowd of people who normally could care less about boxing over to boxing. So for me personally, that could bring a few new fans, maybe a few new fighters. You know, like for us, think about it. For us, our generation growing up, the Rocky movies, man. You know how many fighters the Rocky movie made? That movie, every kid sat home wanted to try to drink a couple raw eggs and, you know, all that crazy stuff. But it was like he made a whole generation of fighters. And I think Jake Paul could possibly, you know, do the same. I hope he does, because I want to see it keep growing.
Young kid comes to you, got hands in the streets. He's famous in the neighborhoods for whooping ass, but he's a young kid famous for whooping ass in the neighborhoods. You get him in the ring. He wants you to coach him. What is the most important advice you can give him?
You know, so here's what I tell all these young fighters. I don't care what you do in the gym Monday through Friday. What's going to make your life and make your career better is what you do from the time you leave Friday to the time you come back on Monday. What do you do with your Friday night? What are you doing with your Saturday night? And what are you doing with your Sunday? Are you out partying Friday night? Are you out partying Saturday? Is Sunday fun day for you and you're partying that day and you're back in the gym? Because if so, you're going to have a short career and it's not going to be successful. If you are going to box and you really want to get to the next level, we always say boxing is a sport you don't play. Because if you play boxing, boxing will play you, right? So you have to live it. And I mean live it outside the gym. Living inside the gym, that's the easy part. It's what do you do when you leave the gym? That's going to determine how successful you'll be. If you can't be disciplined, if you can't turn down the parties, the alcohol, all the crazy stuff in the streets, don't do it. Just go live that life. But if you can do it, give it a shot. Give yourself a fair chance to be the best you can possibly be.
Well, first off, I gotta thank you. I can't possibly thank you enough, man. This has been an honor 2 times.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if there's anything I can possibly ever do for you, but if there is, let me or Rita know, and we got you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for having me on again. I'm glad, you know, we got to do this second time. I enjoyed it just as much the second time as I did the first.
Ditto. Is there anything you wanted to leave with people before we wrap it up?
You know, only thing I want to say is, you know, I just want to thank everybody out there, you know, in my city, of course, in my state, in the world, anywhere, anybody that ever supported me throughout my career. Thank you so much. You know, I gave my best for the people out there that supported me. I'm appreciative of all of you. And thank you. Just thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And again, thank you for this opportunity.
No doubt, man. You have a phenomenal day on purpose. And I look forward to talking to you again. We have to make a trifecta, like the Winky fights.
There you go. Look forward to
it. All right, man. You have a good one, bro.
Hey, you have a good one too. Thank you.
All right. Peace.
Right. Bye-bye.
Come on, man. You already know, man. It's been another episode of the Intellectually Petty Radio Show with your host, with the most. I know it's corny. This is Jobs. Anyway, who we got next week? We got Big Vaughn, I know, and Angela Davis. I'll be back. Peace.